The bullet traveled for 4.2 seconds, over 2 miles, through shifting winds, thin mountain air, and the subtle pull of Earth's rotation itself. When it found its target, Sarah Chen became a legend. But how does a small-town girl from Montana become the most feared sniper in 3 conflict zones? How do you make a shot that physics says shouldn't be possible? This is that story. Marcus had seen everything in his 15 years as a military journalist. Or so he thought. That Tuesday morning changed him. The desert sun crept over the Nevada mountains as his camera crew arrived at the remote training facility. Colonel Harrison met them at the gate, his voice carrying the weight of too many wars. Today you'll see our elite marksman program. We're testing advanced equipment. Our best shooters. Marcus adjusted his camera settings, following the colonel across a range that stretched for miles. Something felt different here. The air hummed with anticipation. Through his telephoto lens, Marcus spotted a lone figure at the far end. Standard military fatigues. Setting up a massive rifle on a bipod. The movements were precise, methodical, almost supernatural in their calm. That's our test subject, Colonel Harrison said. We're evaluating long-range capabilities under extreme conditions. Marcus zoomed in. The rifle was enormous. A Barrett .50 caliber. One of the most powerful sniper rifles ever built. What's the target distance? 3,000 meters and beyond. We're pushing the limits. 3,000 meters. Nearly 2 miles. Marcus felt ice run down his spine. The desert fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Through his viewfinder, Marcus watched the figure settle behind the rifle. Minutes passed. Calculations. Adjustments. Scientific precision. Then the shot. Thunder rolled across the desert. The bullet arced through crystal-clear air. Seconds later, a distant target exploded. Direct hit, crackled the radio. Target neutralized at 3,247 meters. Marcus lowered his camera, stunned. One of the longest confirmed kills in military history. But something else caught his attention. The shooter stood, removed their helmet. Long hair caught the morning sunlight. The shooter was a woman. Colonel Harrison noticed Marcus's expression. Surprised? You shouldn't be. That was her record being set. 3,247 meters. Marcus felt his worldview crack open. Who is she? The colonel smiled grimly. That's a story that will change everything you think you know about modern warfare. Whitefish, Montana. Population 6,000. Where the biggest excitement was the annual rodeo and occasional bear sightings. Sarah Chen grew up there. Her father owned a hunting supply store. Her mother taught mathematics at the high school. Everyone knew everyone. Dreams rarely climbed higher than the surrounding mountains. But Sarah was different. While other kids played video games, she spent afternoons in her father's shop, learning firearms with an intensity that surprised even him. By 12, she could field strip a rifle faster than most adults. By 15, she was out shooting experienced hunters. She has a gift, her father told amazed customers. But more than that, she has the discipline to develop it. That discipline came from her mother. Mathematics wasn't just a subject in the Chen household. It was a way of understanding the world. Sarah learned to calculate wind drift and bullet drop before she fully understood algebra. Every shot tells a story, her mother would explain, studying Sarah's target sheets. The mathematics don't lie. If you understand the numbers, you understand the shot. At 18, Sarah shocked everyone by enlisting in the Army. She turned down a full scholarship to Montana State. Her parents were concerned but recognized the determination in their daughter's eyes. This wasn't rebellion. This was calling. Basic training at Fort Benning revealed something special. While other recruits struggled with standard qualification, Sarah was hitting targets that challenged their instructors. Chen, Sergeant Rodriguez called during week 3. Step up to the 500-meter line. The other recruits watched in silence. The target looked impossibly small. But Sarah felt that familiar calm settle over her. She calculated wind, adjusted for elevation, controlled her breathing exactly as her father had taught her. The shot was perfect. Dead center. Again, Rodriguez ordered, disbelief in his voice. For more shots. For more perfect hits. By week's end, word had spread throughout the base. The recruit from Montana, who shot like a machine. Captain Williams, a special operations recruiter, had been watching. Have you considered sniper school? He asked after another flawless demonstration. I didn't know it was an option for someone like me. Williams smiled. Someone like you is exactly who we're looking for. The question is whether you're ready for what comes next. What came next was the most challenging military training program in the world. Sniper school pushed Sarah to limits she didn't know existed. The physical demands were brutal, but the mental pressure that separated the capable from the exceptional. Students dropped regularly. The standards were impossibly high. Sarah thrived. While others struggled with psychological pressure, she found peace in the discipline required. The mathematical principles her mother taught became the foundation for increasingly complex calculations. Wind patterns, atmospheric density, target movement. A dozen variables became as familiar as basic arithmetic. Master Sergeant Peterson, a 20-year veteran with 3 combat deployments, had never seen anything like it. Most snipers take years to develop the instincts you're showing in weeks, he told her during a private evaluation. But instincts alone won't make you elite. Are you prepared for what this training is really preparing you for? This wasn't about target shooting. This was about life and death, about becoming a weapon in human form. Yes, sir. By graduation, Sarah had broken 3 training records. Her final evaluation read like fiction. Exceptional mathematical aptitude combined with supernatural calm under pressure. Recommended for immediate advanced training and potential deployment to high-priority missions. The small-town girl from Montana was about to become a legend. Afghanistan changed everything. The deployment came 18 months after graduation. Nothing in training had fully prepared her for combat operations. The Hindu Kush Mountains created landscapes of impossible beauty and deadly complexity, where enemy fighters disappeared into terrain that had swallowed armies for centuries. Sarah's first assignment was Task Force Viper, an elite unit disrupting enemy supply lines in remote eastern provinces. 12 operators. She was the only sniper, definitely the only woman. The men treated her with professional respect, but she felt their skepticism. Combat was different from training ranges. Everyone knew it. Her first real engagement came during Operation Silent Thunder. The mission: eliminate a high-value target coordinating attacks against coalition forces. Intelligence indicated the target would meet commanders in a mountain compound, approximately 1,800 meters from the only viable observation position. Sarah spent 2 days studying the target area, learning movement patterns, identifying complications, calculating ballistic challenges from extreme altitude and unpredictable mountain winds. The air was thin at 8,000 feet. Bullet trajectory would behave differently. You sure about this shot? Lieutenant Morrison asked as they prepared. 1,800 meters is a long way in these conditions. Sarah checked her calculations one final time. The mathematics work. Wind steady from the northeast at 12 knots. Temperatures dropping as the sun sets. Target will be stationary for approximately 30 seconds. At 0347 hours, the target appeared exactly as predicted. Through her scope, Sarah saw him clearly despite the distance. Tall man, distinctive beard, traditional robes, carrying the satellite phone that made him such a valuable intelligence target. Sarah controlled her breathing, made final adjustments for crosswind, squeezed the trigger with that same smooth motion practiced thousands of times. The Barrett .50 bucked against her shoulder. Sound echoed across the valley like thunder. Seconds later, the target dropped. The compound erupted in confusion. Fighters searched for threats they couldn't see. From their concealed position nearly 2 kilometers away, Sarah's team was invisible. Confirmed kill, Morrison reported. Target neutralized. That shot established Sarah's reputation within Special Operations Command. But it was just the beginning. Over the next 8 months, Sarah participated in 17 operations. Each one pushed the boundaries of what military snipers thought possible. Each engagement taught her something new about reading terrain, calculating atmospheric effects, maintaining psychological control under extreme pressure. The shot that changed everything came during Operation Mountain Strike. The mission was complex. Eliminate multiple high-value targets, planning a coordinated attack against a coalition base. Sarah's team had been inserted into an overwatch position on a ridgeline. Visibility across an entire valley where enemy forces were gathering. The primary target was a bomb maker known as the Engineer, responsible for sophisticated improvised explosive devices that had killed dozens of coalition soldiers. Intelligence indicated he would inspect weapons caches throughout the valley, but the distances were unprecedented. Furthest target is 2,400 meters, Morrison briefed the team. That's beyond the effective range of most sniper systems. Sarah studied the terrain through her scope. began running calculations. The shot would require compensating for significant bullet drop, crosswinds that varied with altitude, the rotating effect of Earth itself at such distances. Most snipers would consider it impossible. It's achievable, Sarah told the team. But I'll need perfect conditions and absolute stillness from the target. They waited 6 hours. The engineer appeared at the furthest cache location, exactly 2,400 meters from Sarah's position, moving slowly, methodically, examining weapons containers. Sarah made final calculations, adjusted her scope, settled into shooting position. The world shrank to just her, the rifle, and the distant target. She controlled her breathing, felt her heartbeat slow, squeezed the trigger at the perfect moment between heartbeats. The bullet traveled for over 3 seconds before finding its target. The engineer collapsed instantly. Enemy forces scattered in panic, unable to determine where the shot originated. Confirmed kill at 2,400 meters, Morrison reported, awe in his voice. I've never seen anything like that. Word spread quickly through military channels. Sarah had just made one of the longest confirmed sniper kills in combat history. More importantly, she demonstrated precision that was redefining what special operations could accomplish. When Task Force Viper returned to base 3 days later, a message was waiting. Special Operations Command wanted to see her immediately. Her skills had caught attention at the highest levels of military leadership, and they had plans that would test the absolute limits of her abilities. The meeting at Special Operations Command headquarters felt surreal. Sarah sat in a sterile conference room surrounded by colonels and generals, people whose decisions affected thousands of lives. Her combat record from Afghanistan spread across the table like trophies, each mission report documenting shots that had redefined precision shooting. General Patterson, stern with silver hair and 3 stars, led the briefing. Sergeant Chen, your performance in Afghanistan has been extraordinary. The 2,400-meter kill has been verified and entered into military records. But we didn't bring you here to celebrate past achievements. Sarah waited. We're developing a new program, Patterson continued. Ultra-long-range precision strikes using advanced equipment and enhanced training protocols. We need someone who can push the absolute limits of current sniper technology. Colonel Martinez leaned forward. The distances we're discussing go beyond anything attempted in combat. We're looking at targets potentially 3,000 meters or more. The mathematical and physical challenges are enormous. Sarah's pulse quickened. 3,000 meters. Nearly 2 miles. Atmospheric conditions, Earth rotation, dozens of variables would affect bullet trajectory in ways requiring perfect calculation and execution. What equipment are we discussing? General Patterson smiled for the first time. The most advanced sniper rifle system ever developed. Barrett's new .50 caliber platform with enhanced optics, environmental sensors, and ballistic computers. You'll have access to technology that doesn't officially exist. The next 6 months transformed Sarah from exceptional sniper into something approaching a human weapon system. The Nevada training facility was unlike anything she'd experienced. Every day brought challenges that pushed her skills beyond what she thought possible. Her new rifle was a marvel. The Barrett .50 had been modified with sensors automatically calculating atmospheric pressure, wind speed at multiple altitudes, temperature variations, even the Coriolis effect from Earth's rotation. The scope measured distances to within centimeters and factored in dozens of ballistic variables simultaneously. But technology was only part of the equation. Sarah spent hours daily in meditation and breathing exercises designed to achieve perfect psychological control. She learned to slow her heart rate to levels barely sustaining consciousness, to control muscle tension, so precisely she could hold the rifle steady for minutes without movement. Master Chief Peterson oversaw her training, a legend in special operations circles, more confirmed kills than any active sniper. Equipment makes long shots possible, he told Sarah during one session. But at extreme distances, the margin for error becomes microscopic. 1 degree of rifle movement, 1 miscalculation of wind drift, 1 momentary loss of concentration. You miss by hundreds of meters. The training was physical and mental torture. Sarah learned to make precision shots after running obstacle courses. During sleep deprivation, under psychological pressure simulating combat stress, she fired thousands of rounds at distances exceeding 2,500 meters, gradually extending her effective range through pure repetition and constant refinement. The breakthrough came during month 4. Sarah was attempting a shot at 2,800 meters against a target the size of a dinner plate. Wind conditions were challenging. Crosswinds varying between ground level and the bullet's maximum altitude. She'd missed her previous 3 attempts by narrow margins. Take your time, Peterson advised. Feel the environment. Don't fight it. Sarah settled into shooting position. Began her pre-shot routine. Monitored the ballistic computer readout, but more importantly, relied on instincts developed through months of intensive training. The rifle felt like an extension of her body. The scope like an extension of her vision. The shot was perfect. The target exploded exactly 2,800 meters away. That's a new training record, Peterson announced. But more importantly, you just demonstrated the precision we'll need for the mission we have in mind. It was the first time anyone mentioned a specific mission. There's a situation developing in Syria, General Patterson explained during Sarah's final briefing. High-value targets operating from positions beyond the reach of conventional sniper teams. We need someone who can engage at distances exceeding 3,000 meters. 3,000 meters. Sarah felt familiar calm settle over her as she processed the implications. She would attempt shots at distances pushing the absolute limits of rifle technology and human capability. The targets are experienced, paranoid, and extremely dangerous, Patterson continued. They've positioned themselves in locations specifically chosen to be beyond sniper range. They think they're safe. Sarah looked at mission briefing materials. Satellite photos showed mountainous terrain similar to Afghanistan, but the distances marked were unlike anything she'd seen before. The nearest viable shooting position was 3,247 meters from the target location. When do we deploy? 72 hours. This mission will either establish you as the premier long-range sniper in military history, or it will end your career. There's no middle ground at these distances. Sarah nodded, understanding the wait ahead. Everything in her life had led to this moment. Childhood hours learning mathematics from her mother. Discipline from her father's hunting lessons. Combat experience in Afghanistan. Months of the most intensive training ever developed. In 3 days, she would attempt shots most snipers considered impossible. The insertion into Syria happened under cover of darkness. Sarah and her 4-person support team delivered by helicopter to a remote location 50 kilometers from their target. The operation was classified at the highest levels. Only a handful of people knew the true nature of their mission. Sarah carried equipment representing the pinnacle of sniper technology. Her Barrett .50 had been customized specifically for ultra-long-range shots. Barrel precision machined to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. The ammunition was match grade. Each bullet individually weighed and inspected for perfect consistency. The target was Hassan al-Rashid, a terrorist leader who had orchestrated attacks across 3 countries. Evaded capture for over 2 years. Intelligence indicated he would meet commanders at a compound built into a mountainside. A location chosen specifically because it was beyond the effective range of any known sniper weapon. Al-Rashid was wrong, but only barely. The team spent 36 hours moving into position, traveling at night across terrain that challenged even their advanced navigation equipment. They established their shooting position on a ridgeline providing clear line of sight to the target compound. But the distance was staggering. 3,247 meters according to Sarah's laser rangefinder. That's over 2 miles, whispered Sergeant Davis, the team spotter. I've never even heard of shots at this distance. Sarah was already running preliminary calculations on her ballistic computer. The bullet would travel for over 4 seconds, dropping more than 40 feet during flight. Crosswinds at different altitudes would push it sideways. Earth's rotation itself would affect trajectory. Even the temperature difference between her rifle barrel and ambient air would influence accuracy. Atmospheric pressure is lower than standard, reported Corporal Jiang, monitoring environmental conditions. Temperature 15 degrees Celsius. Humidity 45%. Wind variable from northwest at 8 to 12 knots. Sarah spent the next 6 hours studying the target location, learning patterns of movement, identifying her specific target, calculating dozens of variables affecting her shot. Al-Rashid appeared occasionally on a balcony overlooking the valley, but never stayed exposed for more than a few seconds. He's paranoid, observed Lieutenant Kumar, the team leader. He knows snipers are hunting him. What Al-Rashid didn't know was that he was being hunted by someone operating at the absolute edge of what was physically possible. The opportunity came at dawn on their second day. Al-Rashid emerged onto the balcony carrying a satellite phone, apparently conducting an important conversation requiring privacy. Through her scope, Sarah could see him clearly despite the enormous distance. Tall man, distinctive beard, traditional robes making him easily identifiable. Target confirmed, Sarah whispered into her radio. Range 3,247 meters. Wind northwest at 10 knots. Target is stationary. This was the moment everything had been leading toward. Sarah controlled her breathing, slowing her heart rate until it barely sustained consciousness. Made final adjustments to her scope, compensating for bullet drop, wind drift, atmospheric pressure, and the Coriolis effect. The crosshairs settled on Al-Rashid's center mass. Sarah felt familiar calm settle over her, the same feeling from impossible shots in Afghanistan. During training in Nevada, the world narrowed to just her, the rifle, and the distant target. She squeezed the trigger with that same smooth motion practiced thousands of times. The Barrett .50 bucked against her shoulder. The muzzle brake redirected blast energy to reduce recoil. The bullet left the barrel at over 2,800 feet per second, beginning a journey testing the absolute limits of ballistic science. For 4.2 seconds, the bullet flew through air, following a precise arc calculated by Sarah's mathematical training and executed through months of intensive practice. Atmospheric conditions affected its path. Gravity pulled it downward. Crosswinds pushed it sideways. But Sarah had accounted for every variable. The bullet found its target with mechanical precision. Al-Rashid collapsed instantly. The satellite phone clattered across the balcony floor. The compound erupted in confusion as guards searched for threats they couldn't see from over 2 miles away. Confirmed kill, Kumar reported through his radio. Target neutralized at 3,247 meters. The number echoed through military communication channels like a shockwave. Sarah had just made the longest confirmed sniper kill in military history. A shot pushing the boundaries of what was considered physically possible with rifle technology. How did you know it would work? Davis asked as they packed equipment for the journey home. Sarah looked back toward the distant compound where Al-Rashid lay dead, victim of a shot that had traveled farther than most people could see. The mathematics don't lie, she replied, echoing words her mother taught her years ago in Montana. If you understand the numbers, you understand the shot. 2 years later, Sarah stood on that desert firing range where Marcus was filming his documentary. Completely unaware her carefully maintained anonymity was about to be shattered. The test shot at 3,247 meters had been planned as a routine demonstration. But for Sarah, it had become something more meaningful. She'd made that exact shot under combat conditions, eliminating a target who thought himself safe beyond the reach of any weapon. Today was a tribute to that achievement, a way of proving to herself that her skills remained sharp despite months of training assignments and classified missions she couldn't discuss with anyone. As Sarah broke down her equipment, she reflected on how much her life had changed. From that morning in Montana, when she first held a rifle in her father's shop, the mathematical principles her mother taught had become the foundation for achievements redefining military precision shooting. The Barrett .50 felt familiar in her hands as she performed post-shot maintenance. Every component precisely calibrated for her specific shooting style. The weapon was no longer just equipment. It was an extension of her will, a tool projecting her intentions across distances challenging the laws of physics. Colonel Harrison approached as Sarah finished packing. Outstanding demonstration. The documentary crew seemed impressed. Sarah nodded, wondering how the footage would be edited. What story Marcus would tell about modern warfare. She hoped he'd focus on technology and training rather than personalizing the achievement. Anonymity had become precious, a shield allowing her to function normally between missions. There's another assignment coming, Harrison continued quietly. Similar parameters to previous operations, but the political implications are more complex. You'll receive a full briefing tomorrow. Sarah understood. Another impossible shot. Another target who believed distance provided safety. Another mission testing the absolute limits of her capabilities. It was the life she'd chosen. The natural evolution of skills, starting with childhood target practice in the Montana mountains. That evening, Sarah sat in her quarters reviewing technical manuals for equipment modifications that might extend her effective range even further. Defense contractors were developing new ammunition designed specifically for ultra-long-range shots. Ballistic coefficients reducing atmospheric drag. Improved accuracy at extreme distances. The mathematical challenges fascinated her as much as they had at 12 years old, working through ballistics equations with her mother. But now the calculations had life and death implications, affecting international conflicts and strategic operations, shaping global events. A knock interrupted her reading. Master Chief Peterson entered carrying a folder marked with highest security classifications. Preliminary briefing for tomorrow's mission, he explained. This one's different. The target has studied our previous operations and taken countermeasures specifically designed to defeat long-range sniping. Sarah opened the folder, reviewed intelligence photographs. The target had positioned himself in a location eliminating traditional sniper positions, using terrain features and atmospheric conditions that would challenge even her advanced capabilities. Distance? Potentially over 3,500 meters. And that's if we can find a viable shooting position. He's chosen his location specifically to be beyond our demonstrated capabilities. Sarah studied topographical maps and satellite imagery, already running preliminary calculations. The shot would require equipment modifications, new ammunition, shooting techniques pushing beyond everything she'd accomplished before. When do we deploy? 72 hours. This mission will either establish new records for precision shooting or prove we've reached the absolute limits of rifle technology. Sarah nodded, felt familiar calm settle over her as she prepared for another challenge testing everything she'd learned. The small-town girl from Montana was about to attempt shots existing at the very edge of what physics and human skill could accomplish together. As Peterson left, Sarah returned to her technical manuals with renewed focus. Somewhere in the mathematical relationships between velocity, trajectory, and atmospheric resistance lay the solution to an impossible problem. She'd built her career on solving such problems. Tomorrow would bring another opportunity to push boundaries of what the world considered possible. The desert wind whispered against her window as Sarah worked through calculations determining whether her next mission succeeded or failed. The numbers, as her mother had always said, didn't lie. If she understood them correctly, tomorrow would bring another impossible shot made possible through discipline, preparation, and the calm precision that had become her signature in the world's most dangerous places. And that's how a girl from Whitefish, Montana, became the most feared sniper in military history. Not through magic, not through luck, through mathematics, through discipline, through thousands of hours of practice turning the impossible into the inevitable. The next time you hear about a record-breaking shot, remember Sarah Chen. Remember that behind every impossible achievement is someone who refused to believe in impossible. Someone who understood that if you get the numbers right, the bullet will follow.